Hello, everybody. I am here with Zelle, and it's a beautiful day here. I don't know where other people are joining us from, but we had snow a couple days ago, and yet the sun is shining bright right now. I had to close my curtain because it was too much backlight, but it felt nice to feel that warm
Yeah.
sun coming in through the window. And as always, in a moment, I'm going to let Zelle do her introduction of herself. I like folks to listen to people tell their story with their voice because you can hear the words that they emphasize. And interestingly, knowing that my focus is on growth and change, right? Zell was just sharing with me that even since she had originally sent me what she wanted to be as her title on the go live, she's been
Yeah.
making some adjustments as she's noticing some things. And that's the way it works, right? I mean, some of the
Yeah.
best changes for our productivity, effectiveness, etc., happen to a gradual process and we don't necessarily expect them. And certainly your backstory, which we're going to get into today, has been, change on top of change on top of change and how you navigated through that. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, Zell, so that they know who you are, and then we'll dig in.
Yes. Thank you. So, professionally, I have been a procurement executive when I was in corporate. And I have been since way back. I'm a Filipino born American now. Yay. And I have been in procurement. I'm an executive. I have led big teams. So I'm a leader and I've been a mentor. Now, I now moved to become an entrepreneur when I moved here in the States. And just recently, I pivoted to become an empowerment and transformation coach. So that's me professionally. And personally, I'm a mom, I'm a stepmom, I'm a wife, and also I'm a friend to many. And I'm a lifelong learner and always have the curiosity, always love stories of people. So that's who I am in a nutshell.
And I love well, you are a friend to many, and to me is one of those friends. And I love the fact that you noted that you're a lifelong learner and the curiosity. That's something that we definitely connect about. Hearing people's stories and understanding where they're coming from helps us to understand where we can meet them and how we can offer our services and how they can be part of our lives. So those conversations are really important. Now, you mentioned Filipino born, right? I think that story is essential to understanding where you are and the fact that you've been able to help so many people, not just people who have similar backgrounds to you, but people across various demographics, because at the end of the day, we all are faced with situations that were not part of our initial plan, and we're like, okay, what am I going to do now? And have to navigate and find it. And you were noting how looking back, you see how all those pieces came together. So maybe share with everybody, if you don't mind, a little bit about that story, your journey, actual physical journey, but also your professional and personal journey that took place within you as you went through that.
Yeah, where do I begin, right? Never a dull moment. So, yes,
Absolutely.
so before I came over 9 years ago, I was in procurement. I'm a senior procurement professional. I have led many teams globally. So, you can imagine how fulfilling that must be professionally for me. I have a lot of friends, connections back home. I'm an expert in my field. I was that confident, right? I can command and be wherever I am and start up something new. Change was just like something
Right.
easy for me to do. And unexpectedly, I met my then husband and asked me on the same year to marry him and move here in the States. Was that totally expected? Not at all. Not at all. That because that required me to leave my job. I'm at the peak of my career. My boss was saying, "Are you really sure? Leave my friends, leave my family, leave my grandmother, who's very close to me, and start a life here." And you can imagine that I'm into a new culture. I've been traveling here and there, but being in this culture and then finding like I have no office to go to the following day. The routine. I felt like I don't know my identity. Who am I here? I have to be useful. I'm independent. And for some months, I have to rely on my husband to do everything for me and help him with the business, which I don't know anything about. I become an accidental entrepreneur. And
Right.
so it's like what you said earlier, like that you said, like I honor the fact that I was feeling low, depressed, no confidence. I couldn't figure myself out, and I guess it's a lot of people can relate. I came here on midlife in my 40s. Like, what am I doing here at this time? But all the time I've been through that, what I packed with me since I was there in the Philippines was this mindset, or if you call it the heart set, that it's very important for me to keep a very good vibration of what I do. I do understand manifestation, like I want to do this, I want to have this. But for me, I never am into manifestation. I totally put a lot of importance on what I feel, the very moment, the present moment. If I feel elated, if I feel I'm going to feel this top of the world thing and I'm living it every hour of my day, whatever happened to me and whatever will happen to me will serve the same feeling anyway. And so
Mm.
happened, I felt love, and then suddenly I met him. So I never manifested there will be this guy that or I will be in the different country. No, I mean, this is the very thing I tell women that I help with, that you have to live the feeling. That's why I say I have been helping women create and experience powerful lives, because when I say create, of course, you do the intention, you take the action, you set the goal, you put your dreams and you write them down, but they forget the feeling of experiencing it. You're not going to experience it when it happened. You're going to experience it already the very moment you thought about it. So I'm not overly spiritual, but I am spiritual in nature, in terms of I do believe that there are purpose and reasons why things happen to me and to everyone else. Like this change that I never thought would happen to me in life, and it was quite impactful. And I said, "Oh no, I don't have a career. I'm not even an American. What am I?" Suddenly, it opened before me because I have to keep my vibration very linear to what I believe this will be very good, even though in my brain, like, this sucks big time. It's hard to marry
Yeah.
that, right? Was that I will never know I'll be an entrepreneur and eventually an investor, and eventually we'll have notable exits. Me and my husband worked hard for, because we kept pulling each other up, because all I can say is it will come, it will come. But being him as a rational person, what are you talking about? And so that itself is a very powerful experience. So I say my experience of transformation didn't happen because I know what to do.
Mm.
I just know the feeling I wanted to have and believe in that. I wanted connection. I feel I will be connected. And then there you go. I meet Deb Harrison, right? Among others, many amazing people. And I tell them, what are you wanting to feel? Because that definitely aligns to my values. My family came from humble beginnings. Being the eldest of the eldest grandchild, eldest daughter, I have this full responsibility to be like a role model somehow. And all I can have for myself, and my father would say, I can only give you education and that's it. But no one tells me how do I keep this and this all lined
Mm.
up, right? I pride myself to be an intuitive, curious person. I like stories. I've been reading a lot of biographies of people even before I was in grade 6. I still remember that, because why? These are adversity stories and their changes helped me realize, like, look, I'm fascinated with people who have gone through a lot of failures or experiencing challenges, and because that's the power that they have. You wonder, right? Like, how do
Mm.
they ever get out of the rut? And that's the power happening. So, and each one through failure get that power, and it's just a matter of how much more power can you add up to it. And if you ask me a year ago, I would be probably, Deb, I don't have friends. I don't have
Mm.
connection. I'm the only Asian here. And now it just came up to me. Like, I have to be in belief that I'm already feeling connected, even virtually, and I feel the same, right? That's what I've
Yeah.
been trying to also advise or suggest or politely provide as an option for anyone to see the goodness of what they feel.
Beautiful. I love so I too like, and that's probably because we love people. I read a lot of biographies and memoirs as well. And I think our conversations with people in many ways are getting snippets of their memoirs, right? When we ask somebody, how did you get here? Why is this important to you? And we get those stories. And the really beautiful thing about that, well, there's so many beautiful things about it. I should say the one beautiful thing about it, but we notice overlaps, we notice commonalities between different people and ourselves. We see connection points, moments in time where we had similar feelings, and we find ways to navigate. And when we also read those stories or listen to other people tell their stories, and it's interesting because this has to do with the post that I have scheduled to go
Mhm.
out later today, we build our own library of resources through which we can help navigate things, and which we can help other people navigate things. We're not going to personally experience everything that people are going to need guidance on, but the more that we talk with people, the more we find pieces of information that help us to navigate forward and then help us to make that advice to other people. So it's such a collective thing, and that's why it's so important for us to listen and share the hard parts, share the easy parts, share it all, so that we can help learn and grow with one another. And the other thing that you said too about how it wasn't that you knew the way forward, it was that you just knew you needed to go forward, right? You were learning as you went. That's a lot of what we experience in life. And we're changing from the moment that we're born.
We
Right.
are.
I
We
and I
are.
talk about this a lot in the sense that I go to work with people, whether it's an individual or a company, and a lot of times there's obstacles to change because people are resistant because of whatever misconceptions they might have, or past experiences that they have about it. There's reasons that people feel reluctant to adjust or feel reluctant to embrace a change that's coming. But we really are all masters of change from the moment that we're born. We are changing and growing and making all of these different adaptations. So when you remind people of that, right? And you knew like, okay, I don't know what to do, but I know that I can do this. I know that I know what I want to feel. I know the vision of what I want to be able to express to other people. I have this, the message, which you didn't know necessarily how you're going to do it. And that's why recently you've been able to open up your coaching business. It's why first you're able to be a coach, and while secondly you realized, okay, this expands beyond just, your original target was thinking like, okay, I'm going to work with other Asian women because I'll be able to relate to them, and you can, but you can relate to everybody. That
Mhm.
sense of like, I'm not really sure who I am in this new situation, right? A new relationship, leaving a relationship, a new job, leaving a job, a new home, leaving a home. All of those scenarios where we're like, I don't know what I look like in this new situation and how that's going to fold out. What are some of the questions you maybe ask people or have people reflect on to do that? Like, okay, let me understand here. And interesting, last night I kind of posed this question as my post was like, you need to know where you are in order to figure out where you're going. So how do you help? Because that's what you do, right? You help people figure
Mhm.
out where they are so that they can move forward. What are some key questions that you ask folks?
So, I love that question because the very first thing that I ask is, who are you? And that's what you also ask your audience, your guest is, and also I ask, what are your values? What is it your value? And that's the first one I have on my notes, the value. And as we proceed to something they want to work on, and I refer to them, Okay, you're having a hard time figuring this out. Let me go back and read to you what you told me your values are. And then just like that, like, oh, yeah, that was my value. So that's why I do it this. That's
Mm.
why it doesn't resonate well with me. So everything, because when we're so caught up with our brain, right, telling you what's rational, what's the right way to do, what's reality, it's hard to look into what's here on what you really value. And when I ask the question value, it's always the hardest question because people didn't even have time to reflect about it for the many years they've been living, right? And so when change comes, they either fall into three buckets: those who are welcoming and embracing change, give it to me, right? Kind of person. The other one who resisting change at all. Like, I don't want this change. I want to stay put. And the other that I don't know what to change. And that's those are that are feeling stuck, if you call it. Like, what's my next forward? And among the three, the hardest is the third one because you don't have any idea what's your next chapter. I've done this, I've succeeded in this, I earned this. Am I gonna retire early? That's the hardest part.
Right.
And then you recall what do I love to do? What's my goal? And then suddenly you didn't have time to reflect what you really want as a purpose. So when I asked them what bucket do you fall, of course they would say, oh, I'm resisting the change or I don't have any idea.
Right.
So we go through the exercise of what do you value? And if they cannot ask that, okay, what in the past didn't go well with you? Why do I ask the question? Because it's only during failure most of the time, and I'm not saying success doesn't give you values, but the failure, the hardship, that's when you realize what doesn't resonate well with you. It's only when you know what you don't want that you know what you want, right? And when people say, is this the right thing to do, Zell? Is this how I should do it? I pause and I say, how do you feel about it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's good. So you feel hesitant about it. Yeah. So why are you proceeding? And then we go back again to the very
Right.
feeling. There are no words to say, this is my value. Oh, I value patience. But what is patience for you? And I think if we are, like you say, curious about things and you are curious about people's stories and you listen to them, don't you feel, Deb, that in that very moment you're listening, you're feeling like there's this conduit in you to say
Mm.
something to this person? And unconsciously, you are actually sending a message to them and you don't know where it came from. It may not be
Mm.
from your experience. You're not an expert on everything. And you are actually providing in that very moment a space, a way for them to receive, if you call it the universe's message, right? Because you listened, someone took time to stop and to listen.
Yeah, and don't you find too that a lot of times, I don't even say anything. I'll ask a question. The person will ask a question, and I'll ask a follow up question to their question, and then they'll proceed to talk. And in the course of that time, they'll answer their original question, right? So it's like and I
Yeah.
think it's the freedom that you can give somebody if you truly lean in and listen to somebody. People feel like I'm being heard right now. They let out some of the stuff that they might not have otherwise let out, that sometimes we don't even realize is kind of laying dormant inside of us because we're just like, okay, I've got to move forward. I've got to keep going here along the path. You said something that I think I wish that and I know that some people do, taught this more to younger kids, right? The idea that a lot of times we teach the, like, which is your favorite subject? Do you like this or this, right? So let's say that, and they pick their favorite subject. They can maybe define that, but why, right? You get the why. Well, I like English. Why? Because I get good grades in that. Okay, so is it that you like English, or do you like the feeling that you get when you do well in that class? Right? Because maybe you would rather be enjoying the math class, but you're struggling with it. I mean, that's a very simplified example. But so uncovering and not just taking sometimes those answers at face value, even for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Even for ourselves going, do I do this or do I do this? Why am I picking this? What is it that's making me want to do that? Because that's going to help us to make more informed decisions, uncover biases we have about ourselves, uncover, you were talking about some of those negative experiences that we carry forward. So it's a really cool thing to be part of that and to recognize that we can do that in every conversation that we have.
Yeah.
Right? Whether somebody's coming to us for coaching or just chatting with us in the store, the grocery store for some reason pops up in my conversations all the time. But grocery store line, right? You have a conversation with somebody. So many times I walk away thinking like that was a really cool conversation. It was maybe 3 minutes, but there's that connection point.
I love what you just shared here, Deb, because I was saying that sometimes it's easier for us to talk to strangers because what we're really aiming for is someone who will not judge us, right? No bias of long friendship because friends thought they know you, or family. They mean all well, but there's the feeling where you just want to talk.
Right.
That's where coaches come in. You just want to talk, you just don't want to be judged. And coaches, I mean, I can speak for myself, there's the beauty in it. Now, this is where I love being a coach right now because, as I posted not so long ago, my son turned 15. Thank you for the comment. And when he was 7, he was diagnosed in autism spectrum. And as having a special child was quite difficult, another change in my motherhood. And as he now turns 15 and is getting better and better, but still have a social skill challenge. If you ask a teenager, what is it that you like? Why do you want it? I don't know. I don't know. And that's where I
Mm.
find that when I tell him about his feelings, that he tells me more. Like when I tell him about, okay, this is a big change. You're going to a general school. It's no longer private where only eight kids. And he said, oh my God. And I said, look at this way. Can you imagine the feeling of having friends? The feeling that you're talking to them. And now he's socially challenged. But what I like about the coaching is then I say, what is your superpower? You know the games that you usually play? And then they suddenly light up. Your autism is a superpower.
Mm.
You're not normal because you are super super normal. And I love that I could put that in words of feelings
Right.
because I've been loving listening. Why can't I listen to my own son?
Well, yeah, and I think in adolescence in general, right? And we have I have a son who has special needs as well, and so I understand some of that specifically. But for adolescence in general, you're going through that period. Your hormones are, I mean, forget it, right? What your body's going through is just unprecedented to anything you've ever experienced before. Now and this is of course going to depend, but you've got potentially extracurricular activity leaders telling you what to do, parents telling you what to do, teachers telling you what to do, your friends telling you what to do. In some ways, social media is telling you what to do, right? Who to be. So you've got all of those voices, and you're trying to navigate it through the cobwebs of hormones that make even basic decisions sometimes seem really overwhelming. So it's a tricky thing, right? So when you can help them to recognize that the things that they see in themselves as weaknesses, because I think even your most confident teenager will probably be able to very quickly tell you what they don't like about themselves. If you ask a teenager what they don't like about themselves, they'll be able to pretty quickly answer that question. Probably most of us could, but since
Yeah.
we're talking about teenagehood. So when you can help them understand that that thing that they're seeing as a weakness has its strengths, whatever it is. It might be, well, I respond too quickly, or it takes me a long time to do homework. Any of those things, you can find ways that those are a part of how you are a gift, right? Your son's autism. My son was born with brain damage. I tell him regularly, I'm like, do you know how many kids you're going to meet that have special needs that you can speak encouragement into in a way that I can't, because I can't relate to that, right? People, I can speak encouragement, doesn't mean I can, but he can in a special way because he's experienced what they have. So that's just a really great thing for us to consider. And so, like, I one of the things we'll do at the dinner table is, tell me a high or low from the day. Very
Mm-hmm.
simple, right? What was something really good that happened? What was something really, and you can start to see their values and stuff play out. But I mean, it's tough. It's tough navigating this world as an adult, but when you're a teenager and, you know, the veil is on.
So in the topic of transformation, even as adults, we are like teenagers.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
are like we are a fan of being our own our own limiting belief. They hormonally would say that for us, sometimes it's really just the mind,
Yeah,
you know. They feel like, for what you said, it's the hormone that's happening while they're growing up. They have some form of, let's say, reasons compounded to what they're having, and it's understandable. But some adults, when they're going through changes, they become like teenagers,
right.
intentionally or non-intentionally, but they are like trying to be, I'm not so good enough, this sucks. What's your
Right.
high and low, or all low?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I'm sure you and I have plenty of things
I
we can
have.
yeah,
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 and it's fascinating to say that in all of this, what you're doing with your son is amazingly like allowing them to just share. You
mm,
know, how are you able to even pull that out of people?
right. Well, that and
Right.
I think that's those open questions and the trying ourselves. I think you and I had talked about because of my past experiences as a child and trying to navigate through that, I had this kind of feistiness, which is really positive when you're trying to navigate difficult circumstances. But I have had to be really intentional with making sure that I don't start to answer before the sharing is done, right? Because I'll hear somebody say something and in a very good reason. It's not that I think, oh, I know better, but I'm like, oh, I want to share this. But I'm like, I have to kind of sit back. So I think like we do all have to be intentional with how do we communicate and what are the ways that we can moderate that. We don't need to change it, right? We can be really honest about it. Like I'll even say sometimes to people when I'm talking to them, like, I'm sorry, I'm a really loud talker. And sometimes my volume goes up and I don't know why. And I'm just telling you. So, like, right, be aware, be present in the moment, and then let people have that opportunity to share, knowing that you truly want to hear it. What is something that you wish you mentioned before, so I'm gonna go back. Sorry, I started the
Mhm.
question and stopped. You mentioned before, and I thought it was interesting how you were feeling these feelings of loss, but
Hmm.
now you're looking back and thinking, but it was some loss, but there were all these amazing opportunities. What is something you think would have helped you to know then that you know now that would have allowed you to proceed in a different emotional place? Which again, you clearly are in a great place, but what do you think would have helped you navigate that?
Like, thank you. I packed with me this simple statement where I have to prioritize and honor my feelings, right? That's all I have. Whatever
Yeah.
challenges I have, feelings, I go back to that. So when I had that feeling lost, feeling down, depressed, I couldn't make anything out of my life at that time because it was so totally like 180-degree turn for me. I realize right now, had I known that if I could just didn't forget, even for that amount of time, that vibration of a feeling, that I should have continued doing that, that I would realize, hey, this is just an ugly duckling face. If I
Mm.
didn't know that, if you don't, it's like you have to get take a step back to move two steps forward. Is basically what happened. If you didn't have that, if you didn't have that challenge, then these opportunities wouldn't have come. I thought what I had was enough or more, but it's so far from, even if I become successful at that time, so far what I have right now.
Mm.
That it had to happen, and I didn't trust enough my faith that it needed to happen, because then I had the resilience developed, another power of mine that I have gathered from that experience. The power of to talk to people that, hey, I understand what you're going through because I was there. How can you say you're an expert in the feeling of transition when you never really felt that transition in your life, right? And to really know that you can, I've been challenging and breaking barriers before. That's another form of barrier. And the saying that God will not give you what you can't handle. And I guess he had too much faith in me. He gave me too much. I would have to say, God, I'm overfilled. But why, right? Because I'm standing here, I'm in front of you in your amazing audiences talking now. I see that before? No.
Mm.
But now when I feel very low, unclear, confused, overwhelmed, scared, I have to continue believing there is something happening here. There will be something, the universe is going to surprise me with something, and I have to have fun with it. I have to laugh about it. Like, this is funny.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Well, yeah.
overwhelmed right now. This is funny. Like, what is happening?
Yeah. It's neat that you said that, and that is a strategy that I've used my whole life unintentionally, and now as I've gotten older, I've realized that a lot of times you do need to look at the circumstance and try to laugh at it, not to not acknowledge that the emotions and sadness and stress that we feel are all very valid, because to your point, emotions are important. We want to recognize them. Hey, I feel really sad, but also to add some, like, well, this is a set of circumstances that I'm in right now. I'm curious to see how this is going to work out.
And don't you
And
wonder why it happens when you thought you're at your best?
yeah.
Then suddenly something comes in, like trying to, like, shake you up. Like, hey, I'm here. And then it's shaking up. Why? Of all times, why didn't it happen when I was there? It
Right,
wouldn't have
right,
been too shaky. It's already there. I'm already shaky. But
right.
once you thought you are on your 2 feet strong, and then something comes in, challenges you again.
Yeah, and we often perceive that as going backwards, right? Like if we are on a new path, we think like, "Oh, I'm starting over again." But you're not starting over again. Like your what you did, your past professional career, right? With procurement and stuff and what you're doing now as a coach, those connect together, right? You and I were having a conversation a couple weeks ago and I was talking through something I was trying to decide about, and you were pulling from all those different facets of your life. Right? It wasn't just the now, it was the things that you'd experienced in the past and how did those apply? So, I think the term starting over is not necessarily a negative thing because it's great to say, "Oh, I'm starting over, I'm starting fresh." But when we apply that to our journey as if somehow everything we've done thus far is erased because we're starting something new, when it's not, it's all cumulative, and we can take all of those experiences and all of those lessons and things that we've been through, whatever we did before, and bring them into what we're doing now. And that's what you did, right? You're
Yeah,
taking your past professional experience, you're taking the personal journey that you took, you're taking being a mom, being a wife, being a friend, all of those things feed into how you advise somebody who comes to you and says, "Something's got to change. I can't go on like this." And you're like, "Okay,
yeah,
here's what I'm going to bring to you. My full being with everything that I've been and everything that I am, and I'm going to meet you where you are, and we're going to figure out the next steps." That's
perfectly said.
Yeah, that's
Perfectly said.
victory.
And we're still changing as of the moment, right? All these adversities that we're experiencing right now, this is for our future self.
Yeah.
All that you do right now, Deb, all that I do right now, we trust that in the future, we look back at this and said, see, I've learned this because this happened to me before. And that's the goodness about living this life. you know
Yeah.
the opportunity to have both bad and good experience happen to you because you've never felt so alive.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
easy to look at that the other way. I'm saying that, with a grain of salt. I too am practicing it.
Yeah.
It's a never ending process, but I'd rather have that than feeling like I don't have nothing to live for.
Right. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and I want to tell you, you doing this and providing a platform for a lot of amazing minds to share, There's stories for others. It's like your own collection of autobiographies of people for others to hear and learn from, because you feel then validated, like, oh, this is normal. And what do they do? What did
Right.
the Deb do, right? To go
Right.
through this.
Yeah, and
And
I think what's oh, sorry, go ahead. You were
yeah, go
still
ahead. Yeah.
talking. I was going to say when you were saying that too, it's really kind of interesting as you think about sometimes I'll have people who are very different, right? Like I might have somebody who does coaching and the next day it's somebody who does like aromatherapy, right? So
Mm.
you're going to have people who have very different fields, but sometimes even when you have people who have very similar fields, but the stories are so different. And that's why I think it's important too. Like if I'm talking to somebody and they're looking for a coach or a consultant, a company's looking for somebody that does something that I do, but I think in my resources of people that I've met, like this person actually has had experiences that are going to be more valuable. Why wouldn't I refer that person? Right? That's not competition. That's an opportunity for this person, client, company, whatever, to be helped by somebody that I know is going to bring them value. And the more that we do that, we're contributing to the entire world, which we're all part of. Right? So things that
Yeah.
we do that help people help us. So
And there's
yeah,
an
it's I
abundance of people. There's really no scarcity, thus competition, right?
right.
I mean, I think it's from the scarcity mindset that people think we are they're competing with others. I'd say it's more of how do you reach out to those that are aligned to have you. That's why
Yeah.
coaches also have discovery calls, because not all
Right.
clients are for them,
Right.
right? And for what you do, you're doing like another version of chicken soup for the soul. You're collecting stories,
Yeah.
especially with your advocacy of kindness. This is something like people needs to hear and learn from. And where do you get that? There are people who doesn't have a lot of friends, not a lot of network to learn from, but here you are showing this,
Yeah.
right? And it's amazing, amazing. You probably
Yeah.
are so proud, and I know I'm so proud of what you did. We are proud of
Thank
what
you.
we did, and here we are, this opportunity.
Yeah, and I feel 100% confident that there's at least one person who's influenced by every one of these conversations, and that's why it's important to me to think about like what you just said, and that was very very fulfilling words to hear from you. So thank you. I will carry that forward into every conversation I have now. Is that knowledge of that? I hadn't really thought of it that way, and it's a beautiful way to say it. That there are people that are going to hear you tell your story and they're going to hear it and they're going to say, oh, I can do this, or oh, I'm going to reach out to you. Because what an amazing collection of human beings are in this world. And
There
the more
are.
we can share ourselves and share each other with one another, the more that we're going to make headway through some of these really difficult things that we have to navigate.
See, you're connecting people,
Yeah.
right? You're the conduit of everyone else, just because you have first been kind, and
Yeah.
now you're expanding reach. You've connected us with other people, and this is something that's a very, very powerful gift that you have.
Thank you. Thank you very
And
much.
don't get dissuaded by any attempt to topple that, because you are doing amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Mm.
really appreciate that. Yeah, you must have received that message and knew that it was a good one to speak in that. I think that that's
You,
incredible feedback. I thank
for
you.
yeah, in celebration of Valentine's Day, you have a big heart.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. And I was saying to you before, and I didn't intentionally wear
I should
red,
have
but
worn
that
red.
fits.
I was thinking about it.
All right. So, two things I want to make sure. So, first, I want to
Okay.
make sure that everybody knows how they can get in touch with you. And obviously, as always, everyone, if you're of my audience and you want to be introduced to Zelle, you'd like me to do a tee up, I'm more than happy to do that, though I know that she's open to receiving direct conversation. So, first, how can people get in touch with you? What is the best method, etc.?
So I'm in Instagram for Nara Coaching. You can see it here. And I have also an Instagram for Zelle DeVilbiss. So they can DM me in both Instagram accounts and also in Facebook. But I also keep naracoaching.com as a
Okay.
website. So there are different avenues for me to be reached.
Yeah, and I know from having talked to you, folks, reach out even if you just want to say hello, because Zelle's the type of person that you just like to know is thinking of you. So I would encourage you to do that. Any of those platforms, and again, and if you'd rather, reach out to me and say, "Hey, could you do a quick tee up?" I absolutely will do that. So please don't hesitate. If we missed, because sometimes comments and questions don't carry over, we will catch those at the end. And then the last piece here is parting words from you. What is a message that you would like to leave whoever has been watching this live or will watch this after the fact? What is something you'd like to leave with them?
So for me, we need to believe that there is a power within us that we can always rely on, and true transformation it happens when you welcome and you embrace changes that happen to you. You're always curious and be a lifelong learner. That always gives
Yeah.
you growth. That will always give you, you're able to challenge assumptions, you gain new knowledge, and best of all, act only when it's aligned to your purpose and values. That's the only way you get inspired. You don't need to get motivated, you need to just be inspired so that you can take action. Then only you can rely on yourself then. So those are my thoughts about what transformation is. And please be keenly aware that change happens every second, beginning now. So learn to listen.
Yeah, and if you're facing any obstacles, reach out to Zelle and she can help you get through whatever blockers you are facing or think that you're
More
facing.
than happy to. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Elle, for joining us. This was a wonderful conversation. I know we could go on for hours and hours. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody here. Thank you for those who joined
Thank
us
you.
live. Thank you for those who watched this after the fact. Again, communication information has been provided, so please feel free to reach out. And we hope you all have a wonderful day. If you are celebrating Valentine's Day, happy Valentine's Day. Whether you are in
Valentine's
a type of
Day.
relationship or alone, please know, I know I speak on behalf of Zelle as well. You are loved by us fully and completely as the amazing and incredible human being that you are. Have a
Perfect.
great day, everybody.
Have a great day.